Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I am here at Southern Cross Station, Melbourne's main terminus for regional and intercity trains. In this video, I will be using public transport to travel the entire way around Port Phillip Bay, before finally arriving back here where I started. This journey is scheduled to take me nearly 8 hours, so let's hope everything goes according to plan. The first length of my journey involves taking a train from Southern Cross to Frankston. My train arrives on time at platform 13, and soon we're off to the suburbs. The first leg of our journey takes an hour and 14 minutes. However, express trains on weekdays can make this trip much faster. We pass by the entrance to the under construction metro tunnel and turn right at Caulfield. Much of the Frankston line has been rebuilt in recent years as part of the level crossing removal project, in an attempt to remove the many level crossings present on this line. Most stations have either been rebuilt or are planned to be redone in the future. Unfortunately, a lot of this reconstruction has come in the form of rail trenches, where the line is lowered underground and your only view is a concrete wall, with the exceptions being at Parkdale and Carrum, where the trains run above the roads instead of below, giving passengers a nice view of the ocean. After traveling through and stopping at every station, I finally arrive into Frankston on time at 9:44 a.m. Frankston Station opened on the 1st of August 1882, and is today the southernmost terminus of the electrified rail network, as well as the largest commercial centre and shopping hub in the Mornington Peninsula. The current iteration of the station opened in 2018, built by the Level Crossing Removal Project, although uniquely this didn't involve the removal of any level crossings. It was simply a nice upgrade. From here, you can change to the diesel-powered Stony Point line, which travels through some of the sparser areas of the Mornington Peninsula. I was here, however, for the bus interchange, where you can find the peninsula's main bus hub. The bus I was waiting to catch was the 788, the longest bus route in the Mornington Peninsula, heading all the way down to the end of Portsea. My bus arrived on time at 10:07, and it was time for the longest leg of the trip, an hour and 37 minutes until I get off in Sorrento. The bus travels through the hills of Mount Eliza, running next to the beach. The bus then takes a short detour to service the main area of Mornington, the second largest part of the peninsula after Frankston. Mornington used to have its own train line, branching off the Stony Point line at Baxter and ending directly in the center of the town. Unfortunately, this line was never electrified and eventually closed to passengers in 1981. All that's left is a tourist railway that runs heritage steam trains down part of the closed route. It's nice to know that there's still a way to experience train travel in Mornington. We then head through some of the more rural-feeling parts of Mount Martha, before rejoining the ocean at Safety Beach. A local legend claims that they initially wanted to name this suburb Shark Bay, but no one wanted to live here out of fear of sharks, so they renamed it Safety Beach to entice potential residents. Unfortunately, there is no documentation of the area ever being called Shark Bay, so this myth is unfortunately busted. After another hour traveling along the beach past the suburbs of the Mornington Peninsula, I finally arrived at Sorrento at 11:44. From here, I have the transfer I was most worried about. You see, in order to get across the gap between both sides of the bay, I have to take the ferry at 12 o'clock, which I had already booked the day prior. The issue was, the ferry company requests you arrive 20 minutes prior to departure, and I only had 16 minutes left to make it to the ferry terminal before the boat left. So, after speed walking my way down Sorrento's historic Ocean Beach Road, I made it to the boarding area, luckily without issue. If this was 1921, however, I would not have had to walk, as Sorrento once had its own tram. Originally constructed in 1889, It was operated by a tiny steam locomotive on a short section of track, linking the bay to the ocean. The local council agreed to fund the service for 30 years, which it did, and the tramway closed shortly after this lease ended. Just a fun little piece of trivia. And now, time for my 40-minute trip across the ocean from Sorrento to Queenscliff. The ferry offers services to cars, as well as pedestrians, although for drivers there is limited space on the ferry, so you're best off booking in advance. The price for car passengers is also very expensive. The service runs using two separate ferries, one large and one small. The 12 o'clock service, which I caught, runs using the small ferry. This is the only part of the trip where I was able to purchase food on board. As we pass by the edge of Port Phillip Bay, we finally arrive into Queenscliff on time at 12:40. Car passengers disembark first, and I'm finally allowed to disembark at 12:46. The next part of my journey involves taking the 56 bus from here to Geelong, but the frequencies are certainly not ideal, so I'm going to have to wait almost an hour. While I waited, I decided to visit the Queenscliff station. Similar to Mornington, Queenscliff used to have its own railway line connecting it to the city. This one was less successful, closing to passengers in 1931 and to freight in 1976. It's also been converted to a tourist line, although it only goes as far as Drysdale. I spent the rest of my time in Queenscliff exploring the town, until finally it was time to make my way down to Hess Street to catch the bus, which arrived 4 minutes late at 1:43, surprisingly the longest delay in this whole video. When I got on, the bus was completely empty. It's clear that a service like this isn't enough to provide a viable transport option for most Queenscliff residents, and barely anyone actually uses it. After making a loop around Point Lonsdale, the bus travels through Ocean Grove. At 17,000 residents, this is one of the largest towns in Victoria that has never had a rail service, only narrowly beaten by Torquay to the west with 18,000. The bus then continues through the peninsula, taking a strange detour around the back of Leopold Plaza, then through the suburbs of Geelong. By this point, the bus had made up for its original 4-minute delay, and we arrive into Geelong Station on time. Geelong Station is one of the oldest in all of Australia, having opened all the way back in 1856 as Victoria's first regional station. The current building was built in 1881. Today, Geelong Station is the main transport interchange for Victoria's second largest city, and one of V-Line's busiest stations, with trains departing from here to Southern Cross every 20 minutes. The trip from Geelong to Southern Cross is the longest section by distance, but also the fastest, with trains travelling at 160 km per hour and making few stops through the northern Geelong suburbs and the west of Melbourne on the way to the city. I was very tired at this point, and the finish line was fast approaching, finally arriving back into Southern Cross at 4 p.m. And with that said, thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll see you in the next one.